If you belong to the group of chess players who regularly fall into time trouble playing classical chess, then this video is specifically for you. I've been struggling with time trouble throughout almost my whole career, and I feel like many players are struggling with it. And in this video, I want to share with you a couple of strategies that I have implemented fairly recently that have helped me, at least currently, to not fall into time trouble as easily as I used to. Now, first of all, why is time trouble such a big deal? Most tournaments are played with a time control that you have 90 minutes plus 30 seconds, increment per move plus 30 minutes after move 40. Now, there are even some events where you don't get the additional time after move 40. Especially in those, it's really important to play quick, not to fall into time trouble. Often what happens, I'm speaking from experience, is that you're falling into time trouble around move 30, between move 30 and 40. Sometimes if things go really badly, you might even be in time trouble earlier than that. And usually around this stage of the game, this is then where all of the blunders happen. And very often this is where you are going to lose the game. Sometimes you might also win the game because the opponent runs into that time trouble, but you know what I mean? You don't want to be in this situation. There are only a handful of players. I would say, for example, the famous example is Alexander Grishuk, who are able to play exceptionally well while they are on seconds. But provided that you're not a genius like Grishuk, or maybe there are some others, it's going to be much more difficult for you. Also, if we look at Magnus Carlsen's games from Norway Chess Now, he lost a couple of them just because he was very low on time and then made some pretty inexplicable blunders for a player of his level. Now, the one thing which you need to realize, at least what has helped me tremendously now, is that if you play faster in the early stage of the game, in the opening, you are going to make some inaccuracies, but you need to outweigh what is more important. Are some inaccuracies in the opening really that important if you compare it to big blunders on move 30, move 40 before the time control? Usually that's not the case. So you always need to make the call to be practical and to keep in mind that if you are one of those players that is often blundering while they are in time trouble, you need to make this decision that, okay, I am going to not play perfectly in the opening stage, maybe in the early middle game stage as well. But if you see a move that is, I've heard this concept of the move that is good enough, then often you should just go and play it. Unless you have a feeling, okay, now this is a really critical moment. And if I don't find the right move now, then I'm going to lose. Or if I find the right move, then I'm going to win immediately. If that is the case, then of course you should invest some time. But if it's not the case, often you should just make the decision to play quickly because you are going to need this time later on. I made the example already that also many strong players are struggling with this. And once they reach the time trouble stage, many huge mistakes do happen. So I think it's a really important thing to study, to try to get the right strategy. What has helped me now, especially considering the match I played against David Navarra, where I think my time management overall has been pretty good compared to some events I've played recently before that. Obviously, one factor that also helps tremendously is that you need to be prepared. Playing the openings, which you can not play by memory, but playing them from understanding and knowing the right plans is obviously going to help you a lot by making decisions faster. So this is where the whole thing comes in. What I often say, you shouldn't memorize openings. You should try to understand them. And when you analyze them, or when you analyze different courses, you should always try to think for the next step. Not only, okay, this is the evaluation of the position, but how am I actually going to play it? Where do my pieces belong? We should also keep that in mind, obviously, when it comes to time management. But I think the most important thing is to be aware that you are maybe not going to make the perfect move. I feel like often perfectionists are the people who are quite prone to come into time trouble. Often that includes myself. And consciously making that decision that you are not going to play the perfect move, but the move is going to be good enough. And then later on, you are going to have time in the crucial moments. Just a final remark on this. I think especially nowadays, you see that most of the games are actually not decided in the opening stage or in the early middle game stage, but in the end game stage. Since chess is getting much more competitive, I'm not the only one who is saying that. For example, the famous author Chereshevsky wrote it in, I think, all of his books, that chess has gotten way more competitive over the years and way more sportive. So the whole energy levels as well as the time management play a much bigger role than it used to play. Finally, I would like to mention two other things. The first one, I just briefly typed into Google how many players are suffering from time trouble. It said something like 20 to 30%, which I think is quite a low number. I am also not sure how exactly that was calculated. I think it's much more than that. I would even go as far to say that almost every second player is struggling from time trouble. So if you are one of them, I would really urge you to think about those concepts which I've mentioned right here. Now, the final remark is that if you are in a bad period, if you're lacking self-confidence, that is often a huge issue for your time management as well. I'm speaking again from experience here. And this is one thing I'm still not 100% sure of how to actually solve that. If you are lacking the self-confidence because for whatever reason you've been having a bad period, you don't really believe in yourself anymore. And then often what happens is that you start overthinking. You don't trust your intuition as much anymore. And this is where you often then fall into time trouble. That's quite a difficult thing to work on. At the end of the day, you should then believe in yourself, that there are going to be bad periods and that you can get out of them. But unfortunately, I don't have the magic pill for you when it comes to that. Everyone has to find their own strategy to get up on their feet again and then to believe in themselves. Now, for me personally, what I need when I'm in a bad period is to start playing good again. This is for me almost the only way that I can actually start rebuilding my self-confidence. I think the decisive moment for my own recent career, just to give you a concrete example, was my performance at the World Cup, where I was really fighting well and playing good chess. Before that, I had a pretty long and bad period. But there I understood that, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I feel like this is also exactly where I then was able to rebuild my better time management once again. So bad periods are going to be there, but at the end of the day, you're going to get out of them again. This video is getting pretty philosophical by now, but the main message, as I said earlier, you need to make the decision that you are going to not play the perfect move, but that you are going to need the time later on in the game. Especially if you don't have an extra 30 minutes after move 40, then it is really important to have the time. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to win so many games by putting your opponent under pressure on the clock and having that extra time for the crucial moments of the game. So I hope this video was useful for you. Let me know if you have any questions any other questions when it comes to time management. Apart from that, if you want to support me, you can check out all of the links in the video description down below. You can also join my YouTube membership, where I publish one exclusive video per month, mostly on openings. The next one is going to come in 2 days, most likely about the Najdorf for black. And thank you guys for watching, and I will see you soon.